City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video, and today we're covering ships, and one ship in particular that I found useful in a couple of situations when I'm trying to climb my fleet arena ladder, and that's Cassian's U-wing. A bit of an odd ship, but the best thing about it is to use it in the situations that I'm using it. It doesn't need to be leveled up very high. You don't need to sink more gear than necessary into this ship. So the situation I would find myself in is I would be battling a capital ship that had more speed than mine. Maybe it was the Executrix, which is just naturally faster. Maybe it was a Chimera mirror match, but their Grand Admiral Thrawn was more maxed out than mine. Whatever the case may be, when the first reinforcement would get called in by the enemy capital ship first, and usually it's Slave 1, I would get stuck behind the taunt wall of Slave 1. You can't critically damage it, and it protects all the other ships because it's got taunt, and it attacks back because it's got retribution. And then those fragile, high-damage glass cannons sitting behind Slave 1 would do a ton of damage to my ships, and I would fall behind and either struggle to win or sometimes lose. So, the solution that I found is Cassian's U-wing. I upgraded its reinforcement ability all the way. What it does when it comes into the battle is it dispels all buffs on the enemy team. All of them. Not only just the target, but also the secondary ships as well. And then what you can do is use one of Cassian's abilities. Specifically, the one that I like to use is the Call to Assist, where Cassian's ship attacks and another ally that you select attacks the same target. So what you can do is call in Cassian's U-wing, dispel the taunt and all the buffs from Boba Fett's Slave 1, as well as all the other ships. Maybe they're stealthed, whatever it is. You get rid of all those buffs, and then you can call a double attack, and the double attack has increased critical damage as well. So I usually have Darth Vader's TIE Advanced in. I call that to assist, and it can do a massive hit to the ship that is hiding and otherwise unavailable for attack. And doing that can turn the tide of the battle. So, as you can see in the video that I'm showing, this is one battle where that situation worked. Typically, the order that I would go in is my first turn for all of my ships. I'm focusing on their tank. It's Biggs. I'm trying to wear it down as quickly as possible. On my first capital ship's turn, I go for the buff, which gives all of my ships, all of my attackers, like Advanced TIE X1, gets offense up. Then the enemy, if they're going first, they're going to call in their reinforcement. It's usually Slave 1. By then, I've normally taken Biggs out, but then Slave 1 gets called in, puts up a new taunt. And then on my turn, I call in Cassian's U-wing, dispel the taunt and all the buffs from Slave 1, and then I can use Vader's TIE Advanced with the offense up buff to attack the target of my choosing. It might be a TIE Fighter because Vader can't miss. It might be their Advanced X1. It might be TIE Fighter First Order. Whatever it is, you can take advantage of one of those targets and maybe eliminate it in one hit. So, we're looking at Cassian's U-wing now, and the best part is, as I said, you don't need to overgear your Cassian's U-wing to do this. Most of your starting lineup ships are going to be gear 12 if you're trying to be competitive in the top 20 of your fleet arena. But as you can see, my Cassian's U-wing is not geared well at all. My Jyn is gear 10. I used her as my Rancor team leader before Commander Luke came out, so I did put some gear on her. And she's also useful for the territory battle special event. Two different battles that require Rogue One. She's a great leader, so she has some gear. But Cassian is gear 8, and K2S0, the other pilot for this ship, is gear 7. So Cassian's ability is the one that matters. That's the Guerrilla Strike, that's the Call to Assist, and that is the one that double taps. So the higher gear level you have for Cassian, the more damage that will do. You get damage buffs, and you get the critical damage buff that both attackers will share during that target. But as you can see, I only had it at, what was it, level 4 or 5, and it's enough to do the job in a lot of situations. So, a great ship. If you're struggling, if you find that sequence of events to be troublesome, you get down the first tank, or maybe you don't. Slave 1 comes in, protects all the ships behind it, and you start attacking into this retribution, taunt, Slave 1 that can deal out a lot of damage. Think about whether you have a Cassian's U-wing that you could use that might help with the situation. Now, by no means is it a cure-all, and it's not usable in every situation. I'm going to show a couple of situations where it's not the right move and why it's not the right move. So in this battle, you can see that I've got my 3 ships against 3 ships on the enemy team, I haven't yet taken out Biggs. But the key here is the enemy ship got off an offense down special. So it's a Chimera mirror match, and usually the opponent's Chimera uses that area attack that reduces turn meter. But sometimes if you do enough damage and if the RNG works out the right way, the enemy team's capital ship will start off with the buff as well. It buffs its own ships and it puts debuffs on yours. And the debuff that you'll get on Vader's TIE X1 is offense down. So it has offense up from my own Chimera and offense down from the enemy capital ship's Chimera. And as you can see, you don't get the same effect. You're losing a lot of attack and you don't get the Alpha Strike to eliminate a target here. So we call in Cassian's U-wing, remove the buffs, go for the TIE Fighter because Vader's TIE still has protection. And not only did we not kill it with Vader, but we got a miss with Cassian. That can happen on a TIE Fighter attack. So the enemy team's capital ship gets turn meter from the miss, and then you don't eliminate the TIE Fighter because Vader has offense down and doesn't have enough in the tank to take that thing out in one hit. So it can be a move that's the wrong move to make, and that's one of those situations when you have offense down on Vader's TIE X1. Here's another example. Similar situation, except we don't have offense down, but we also don't have offense up. And so we attack a TIE Fighter again. We get unlucky and it gets a deflection, so we miss with Cassian's ship. And then we attack with Vader following up. And because we don't have the offense up buff, it's not enough to take out the TIE Fighter. So it's probably okay if you shoot and miss with Cassian's U-wing, if you get the dodge from the TIE Fighter, but then you still follow up with Vader and have enough to take out the ship. The miss probably won't end your run. You're probably still going to be in it. But if you miss and you don't take out the ship, now you're stuck with the problem with Cassian's U-wing. It has that one great ability. It can come in, remove the buffs, and then do a double strike. But then after that, it's kind of a weak ship, especially if you have it geared like I do, not maxed out. So now you're handicapping yourself for the rest of the battle. If you don't gain a number advantage with that reinforcement, now you're fighting an even fight, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, whatever the situation is, but you're using a weak Cassian's U-wing ship. It's not one of those meta ships that has the synergy, that has the cool abilities, that can stun, that can do any of that stuff. So then you're playing behind. The point of this ship is to reinforce. That's why I call it a reinforcement sniper. It's an anti-slave one. Call it in, remove the buff, remove the taunt, snipe that one target you want, take it out with that alpha strike, and now you've got a numbers advantage, and you can use that to carry you through the rest of the battle. This won't work against a Sunfac taunting tank because you're going to come in with the buff. So even if you remove the taunt, it's going to go back up again. There are other situations where it's not going to work. But like I said, I found myself running into this wall of the Slave 1 taunt, and I kind of messed around with some lineups until I found a solution. And it works most of the time, again, knowing if I have the turns set up the right way. So here's one final situation where the situation works. There's no taunting tank here, but that's okay. It's still going to call in a great alpha strike. I kind of have these situational tools as my reinforcements, and so I have the right tool for the right job. And in this case, what I really want to do is take a ship out, and I don't think any of the other ships would have been able to do that. But calling in the reinforcement and getting the double strike with the increased critical damage for Vader's TIE is enough there to take out the opponent's ship and make it a 4-on-1 fight now, where it was 3v2. I was getting the reinforcement. Again, we take it out with that alpha strike, and then we're ready to roll. And there are a lot of situations where this worked for me, and I can take out capital ships or ship lineups with way more power than I have. I'm going against an Admiral Akbar 400,000 fleet power, and I'm able to take it out. Again, Chimera versus Admiral Akbar, there's a lot of good matchup there that you have the advantage for. But these ships are more powerful than mine, and we're still able to get things done by using that double tap. Coming in, we removed protection that time. Vader's TIE Advanced X1 had extra protection. We were able to remove that because it was a buff, and then do the double strike, and that was enough to take out Vader's TIE, giving us a 4-2 advantage in the numbers, and from there we can roll to an easy victory. One other little bonus for Cassian's U-wing, you could see that I had it at 42,000 galactic power, and it has 3 pilots, so that's what helps. But you could see for a low gear level, it really boosts up your galactic power. And it's not a big factor, but it is a factor. If somebody's looking for someone to attack, when you're on defense and one of the lineups it's going against has 350,000 galactic power and one has 375, and the starting ships all look the same, then maybe they'll attack the one with lower power and leave you alone because they don't know what's giving you that extra galactic power, and Cassian's U-wing is a great source for that, and if you level it up, it can have even more. So that's going to wrap up this video. Just a cool little trick, a neat ship that you may not think has a great use. You don't see it in a lot of meta lineups, but as a reinforcement, it can be a really great sniper. It can be a great tool in certain situations to help you overcome a difficult fleet opponent. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know if you have another use for Cassian's U-wing, or you've tried it and it doesn't work in certain situations. Feel free to let me know about that too. I'd love to hear it in the comments. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.